Firstly, we want to review what we already know. So the first type of question we looked at the last day were questions where there were multiple operations on the equation in order to solve it. So first things first, when we look at this one here, we have 13t plus 7 is equal to 150. Well, when we look at this, we can see that we have a variable, which is t, is on the left-hand side of the equal sign. We have a 150 on the right-hand side of the equal sign, which is perfect, but that plus 7 shouldn't be on the left-hand side. So we want to sort that out. We want to move that over. So first things first, what we have to say is we want to try and get that 7 to the other side of the equation. In order to do that, we will have to subtract 7 from both sides of the equation. So I'm going to subtract 7 from this side of the equation and subtract 7 from this side of the equation as well. Then what I'll be left with, oopsie daisy. Then what I'll be left with is, well, firstly on this side I'll have 13t because the plus 7 and the minus 7 will cancel each other out. And then I'll be left with equal to 143 on that side of the equation. So now I have 13 t's is equal to 143. Now that's no use to me just yet, knowing that 13 t's are equal to 143, because I want to find out what 1 t is. In order to do that, I look at the coefficient of the variable. So our variable in this case is t, and the coefficient of it is the number in front of it. So that's 13 in front of t. So we're going to have to divide that side by 13 to find out what 1t is. But if we want to do that, we'll have to do the same thing to the other side of the equation as well. So we'll have 143 divided by 13. Now I know that 10 13s give me 130. 143 is one more 13 than that, so I'll have 11. So that's 11 13s makes 143. So there I have the equation solved. I have 1t is equal to 11, or t is equal to 11. You can write down whichever, it makes no difference. And if I want to check my answer, how I'll go about checking my answer is I'll write out my original equation, which is 13t plus 7 is equal to 150. And I'm going to substitute in 11 for t. So where I had t, I'm going to substitute in an 11. So in goes my 11 there, and then I'll have 13 11s. Well, I've already said that's 143, plus 7 is equal to 150. 143 plus 7 is 150. So 150 is equal to 150. That's a true statement, so I know that t is definitely equal to 11 in this equation. The other type of equations that we looked at were equations where we had variables on both sides. So when we have variables on both sides, our rules are much the same. We can see at the start we have a minus 3x on the left-hand side. That's where we want it to be. We have a minus 9 on the left-hand side of the equals. We'd prefer if that was on the right. We have a minus 7x on the right-hand side. We'd prefer if that was on the left-hand side. And we have a plus 11, which is where we want it to be. So this is where we want it to be. This is where we want it to be. This isn't, and this isn't. And I'm only going to move one at a time for now. When we get a little bit better at these types of questions, then we could move everything at once, but we don't want to do that too quickly. So first off, my equation as it is minus 3x minus 9 is equal to minus 7x plus 11. So if I want to remove that minus 9 on the left-hand side, I'll have to add 9 to it. If I want to do that to the left-hand side of the equation, I'll have to do the same thing to the right-hand side. So now I'll have minus 3x minus 9 plus 9, well, they'll cancel each other out. And then I'll be left with minus 7x plus 20. So my equation is starting to look a little bit tidier now. So I have minus 3x is equal to minus 7x plus 20. Now, this is minus 7x. To remove that from the right-hand side, I'll have to add 7x to the right-hand side. And if I add that to the right-hand side, it will also have to be added to the left-hand side of the equation. So next I will have minus 3x plus 7x. So I have 7 positives and I have 3 negatives. So that means I'll have 7 and I'll have to take 3 away. So I'll be left with plus 4x is equal to Well, minus 7x plus 7x, they'll cancel each other out, and then I'll be left with plus 20. Now, the same as before, I know what 4x's are. 4x's are equal to 20. But what I want to find out is what a singular x is equal to. In order to do that, I check, well, what's the variable in front of, what's the coefficient of the variable? So the number in front of x is 4. So if I divide 4x by 4, I'll have 1x. But to do that, I'll have to do the same thing to the other side of the equation. I'll have 20 divided by 4. So 20 divided by 4 will give us 5. Now, what we're going to do in the main part of today's video is we are going to look at solving linear equations in one variable that contain brackets. So that's what we're going to learn today. We're going to learn how to solve linear equations in one variable that contain brackets. The next topic we have is linear equations with brackets. We have two examples here taken from our book, which you can read in your own time when you're attempting the questions. And here's an example that I've taken as well. So, when we see this question, it contains a lot of things we've already done before. We're going to have to carry out multiple operations on the equation, and there are variables on both sides of the equals, as we can see. Now, when we see something like this, when we see brackets in an equation or brackets in algebra, there's something we have to remember. Brackets mean multiply. So that means we have two options in how we can do it. The first option is we take the number outside the bracket and we multiply it by every number inside the bracket. So we'll have 2 multiplied by a 2 will give us 4, and 2 multiplied by minus y will give us minus 2y. We can also use the array method or grid method, where we set out our grid, where you have the number outside the bracket goes along here in the first row, and the numbers inside the brackets go in the columns, where we'll have 2 multiplied by 2 will give us a 4 in here, and 2 multiplied by minus y will give us minus 2y here. Either method that we use, our outcome is 4 minus 2y. So when we return to here, we'll have to have a look at what we've done. So from what I've written out here on the right hand side, I've used my array, so I can say 2 2's give me 4 minus 2y is equal to y plus 3. So there's no brackets on the y plus 3. There's nothing that can be multiplied. So we're going to leave that alone for now until everything gets multiplied out. I also have this second bracket here, so I'm going to multiply that out now. So I have the minus 8 has to be multiplied by the y, so I can go minus 8y, and I have minus 8 by minus 2. So it's a negative multiplied by a negative, gives me a positive number, and 8 2's are 16. So again, if you want to draw the array out for that, you're very welcome to do so. Maybe do it over on the right hand side, and then you can bring your answer here underneath. So now I'm going to pair together any variables that I can. So on the left hand side of my equation, there's no variables or numbers that can be paired together there. If we look here, there is certain things we can simplify. So we have a y and a minus 8y. So we have 1 positive, 8 negatives. That'll leave us overall with 7 negatives. Then we have plus 3 plus 16 will give us plus 19. So from here, this question is just like the ones we've done before. It's very, very similar to a variables on both sides of the equation question. So I want to end up with all my variables on the left and numbers on the right. So if I have a look here, I can see this is in the correct position for me. That's a variable. It's on the left-hand side of the equals. This is on the correct side. It's a number. It's on the right-hand side of the equals. So first things I want to do is I want to move that positive 4. So I have a positive 4 minus 2y is equal to minus 7y plus 19. So the first thing I want to do is I want to subtract 4 from this side and subtract 4 from this side. If I do that successfully, I'll end up with 4 minus 2y on the left-hand side. They'll cancel each other out. And then on the right-hand side of the equation, I'll have minus 7y plus 19 minus 4 is 15. So now I'm left with negative 2y is equal to negative 7y plus 15. Now, what I'll want to do is I'll want to have a look and see what's not in the correct position. Well, that minus 7y, I want that to be on the left-hand side of the equation. So now I have negative 2y is equal to negative 7y plus 15. So what I want to do is I want to add 7y here so that those two can cancel each other out. But to do that, I'll have to add 7y to this side as well. So now I'll have minus 2y plus 7y will give me a positive 5y. So that's 7 positives taking away 2 negatives. And I'll be left with 5y is equal to minus 7y plus 7y. Well, they cancel each other out, as we said. And then I'm left with plus 15. Now I have 5y is equal to 15. Now to finish the question off fully, I'll have to say, well, 5y is equal to 15. My number in front of my variable, my coefficient of y, is 5. So in order to isolate y by itself, I'll have to say 5y divided by 5 will give me 1y. 15 divided by 5 will give me 3. So y is equal to 3. Now, I can very easily check my answer by substituting 3 in for the original equation, in for y. So I have 2 on 2 minus 3 is equal to 3 plus 3 minus 8 on 3 minus 2. So 2 times 2 minus 3 is minus 1 is equal to 3 plus 3 is 6 minus 8 times 3 minus 2 is 1. 2 times minus 1 is negative 2 is equal to 6. Minus 8 times 1 is minus 8. Minus 2 is equal to 6. Take away 8 is minus 2. Minus 2 is equal to minus 2. Therefore, that's correct. Now, these are the questions I want you to do. They're on page 248 of your book. Our steps, simply enough, are to multiply out the bracket. Variables are to go to the left. Numbers are to go to the right. And then we want to solve and find out what one variable is equal to. It might tell you 5y is equal to something, 3x equal to something. Divide then to find out what one of them is. Now, in terms of levels for these questions, we have our level 1 questions will be question 1 to 6. The level 2 and level 3 questions, truth be told, are much the same as each other. Level 3 isn't that much harder than level 2. But what I want you guys to complete in your copies for correction is to fully complete one level. So that's to fully complete questions 1 to 6, 7 to 13, or 14 to 20. Up to yourselves. I'd encourage everyone to start whatever level they find appropriate for themselves. If you think you start on level 1, you find that a bit too easy, then move on to level 2. And if you find again level 2 is a bit too easy, move up to level 3 so you can get all of them done. Very best of luck with it, guys.